Hey everyone, my name is Artindi, and I recently put out a poll asking how much about coding people in the game dev community know. Based on the results, people on Twitter are better at coding than those on YouTube, except the sample size on Twitter was maybe just a little questionable. So, setting aside the fact that I'm not very popular on Twitter, it seems like plenty of people could benefit from a code-oriented video. So here's a list of 10 tips for debugging your code in Godot. Keep in mind these tips are for beginners, so if you are a pro, you probably won't find anything new here. Either way, please leave your own tips in the comments, because if people clicked on this video, they are probably looking for as much information as they could get, and I'm sure they would appreciate it. The first 5 tips are all things you can do before it comes time to debug in order to make debugging easier, kind of preventative measures. And number 1 is leave comments. This is something that everyone knows they should do, and if you don't know this, then, well, now you do. I try to leave comments for any functions or lines of code that could be confusing later on, but the truth is, it all becomes confusing later on. If you leave good comments at the right places, then it doesn't matter how much later you look at your code. It will be that much easier to understand what you are trying to do. It is an excellent thing to get in a good habit of, and some people even make comments before writing any code as a way to plan out their logic. Make all values variables. If you have any numbers in your code, make it a variable. Not only will it be easier to understand your code later, it will make it easier to adjust values, especially if a variable was used more than once. Name your variables and functions clearly. I used to abbreviate words or try to come up with only one word that would represent the variable or function. Opinions will vary between coders, but personally I find it is better to have a variable or function name that you understand what it does right away, even if that means it is a little longer than typical. You might take an extra second to type it, but reading it later takes hardly any extra time at all, and with autocomplete it really isn't that bad. Don't take shortcuts until you know the code is working. For example, if you need to add 1 to a variable, typing +=1 after variable will increase that variable by 1. This is a common coding abbreviation that many people use, including myself. But instead of doing that, assign the variable itself +1. I found it's better to have as much logic written out as possible, and then once you know it works, you can go back through and shorten things up or try and improve and optimize it. This is just a little one, but similar to the last, if you have any if-else statements, where possible, don't use else. Instead, use else if. Else is just going to catch anything that does not fit in the if statement above. And if there are any cases that you didn't think of or didn't realize, then it might take you a while to figure out what those are. Anytime you can write out exactly what you expect to happen in your code, you'll reduce places bugs can hide. Now when it comes time for actual bug hunting, a cool tool in most coding environments is the breakpoint. In Godot, if you click on any line of code at the far left, you can turn on a breakpoint for that line. And when the program runs, when it reaches that line, it will stop and allow you to take a look at where everything is at that specific moment, including variables and node attributes. Then if you want to continue the program, just click this little button here. When a breakpoint is on, you can click over here where it says remote and see what your scene tree looks like at the moment of the stopped program. And you can see it change live by clicking the step over button, which will continue your code one line at a time. This can be helpful if you are dynamically instancing anything into your scene tree, or you just want to see attributes of a specific node. Print statements are your best friend. Anything you put in the print statement will come out here in the output of Godot. Just write it out like this, and when the program reaches this line of code, it will print out whatever you wrote. You can even put variables here so you can see what they are at any point in the program live while your code is running. If you're not sure if a function is being called when it probably should be, or if some logic isn't being entered when it probably should be, then just throw a few print statements in and you can find out really quick what's going on. I probably use print statements more than anything else when debugging, because it's just a really fast way to get you all sorts of information at any point in your code without stopping the program. Just don't forget to remove them before you finish your game, as they could potentially crash exported games. Last but not least, I use this all the time. If you are pretty sure the bug you are looking for is related to a particular variable, use the search function built into Godot. Just highlight the variable in question and click Ctrl F, and then you can skip through your spaghetti code and see every instance where that variable is used. And you can do this for function calls too. And those are my 10 debugging tips for beginners. If you have any extras you'd like to add or that I missed, please put them in the comments below. I'm sure anybody watching this will appreciate it. And I appreciate you for watching.